What's going on, everybody out there, and welcome to a new series starting up on the channel. This is Ringside Warriors. It's a podcast I'm putting together talking about all the goings on in the wrestling world. Today, this is the first episode, so we're going to do a bit of an introduction before we get into what's going to be going on this show. Right now, it's a vidcast. I'm working on eventually making this into a podcast. Hopefully, it won't take too long, so I won't have to port too many of the episodes over, because this is going to be a weekly podcast talking about all the goings on in WWE. Now, for those of you that are new, I've been a fan of wrestling since I was a kid. My dad used to watch WCW on a weekly basis, and when the NWO came out, my family and I got very, very, very invested in WCW, which then translated into wrestling in general. And it was our weekly routine on Mondays and Thursdays to watch Monday Nitro and Thursday Thunder, which I think switched to Friday for a bit. I don't know. But anyway, eventually WCW kind of faded away, and WWE was where my father ended up hopping over to. And then, of course, myself and my brother, our mother kind of gave up after WCW. Myself and my brother followed along with our father, and we still watched WWE. We got very well versed with all the WWE superstars. And then, of course, Vince bought ECW and WCW, and now all the superstars ended up there. So I've been a fan of wrestling since childhood. Now, I did walk away from wrestling for a while. I felt things were getting a bit boring, a bit tedious, a bit too predictable at times. And maybe it was a bit of a burnout too. I mean, I had been watching wrestling since I was 10, maybe about 10ish. So yeah, I was getting burnt out and things were getting predictable. There was Super Cena and whatnot going on. So I ended up walking away from wrestling for a bit. And then AEW came out. And all of a sudden, that spark of interest reignited for wrestling. And for a time, for those of you that didn't know, myself and Brant started a podcast called 123 Podcast. And that show, we talked about all the stuff going on in AEW. Then, unfortunately, due to scheduling, episodes came out late. We ended up skipping weeks. And then personal life stuff on my end happened. So I walked away from wrestling, podcasting, YouTube, everything for a while. And at one point, Brant did ask if he could continue 123 Podcast. So I said, of course, absolutely. I'm not doing anything right now, and you still want to go with it, so go with it. So with Brant doing 123 Podcast, I didn't want to bring that back here. So Ringside Warriors. So eventually I'll have some friends hopefully coming on with me to talk wrestling. I have talked to a few of my friends who watch wrestling, and they are interested, but will it be on a weekly basis? We'll see. The one constant will always be myself talking about everything going on. Of course, I would always like having more people to talk wrestling with so we could kind of bounce off our opinions and thoughts, but that depends on them. So anyway, going back to what I was saying. So Brent went off with 123 Podcast. Didn't want to bring 123 Podcast here too. I didn't want to cause a conflict. So created Ringside Warriors. And yes. So now, the reason I got back into wrestling after walking away from AEW, because AEW, in my opinion, I've been watching AEW for a hot minute while I've been away from YouTube and everything. And I don't know. A lot of people are talking about the leadership and too many titles, this and that. And I do agree. And really quickly, I started losing interest in AEW. I noticed it. But Cody Rhodes returned to WWE 2 years ago at WrestleMania. And I noticed since then, I started watching the WWE YouTube channel. At first, it was here, there, everywhere. Then it started to grow a bit more. And then recently, in the past 3 months, literally everything that went up on the YouTube channel I was watching. So literally, I've been up to date with everything going on in SmackDown and Raw for the past 3 months. So I'm like, I remember I was sitting with my friends and they were saying, well, didn't you used to talk wrestling on a podcast? I'm like, yeah, a while ago. And it just happened. They're like, why don't you go back to watching wrestling? And I said, let's see, maybe I'll try it. And I said, you know what? I used to have a wrestling podcast. Maybe I'll try doing my own podcast a bit, sharing my thoughts on the wrestling. And they're like, yeah, man, go for it. I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say about wrestling. So here we are. So what we're going to be doing here on Ringside Warriors is I'm going to be covering Raw and SmackDown. I am adding NXT. I did watch NXT. However, I don't really know anybody from NXT. I know a couple of people, like Trick Williams, but I don't know a lot of people. So I don't want to dedicate 100% that I'm going to be doing it. I mean, I love the title. And I'm definitely interested. Again, I feel like it's going to take me a bit longer because I know no one in NXT. So I need to familiarize. I need to grow a relationship, a viewer-wrestler relationship with the program and get to know everyone there. Because when I watched NXT this week, I'm going to be honest with y'all, I knew no one. I didn't know anyone except Trick Williams. So I was lost with who I was watching. And I'm sitting there going, well, I got to watch them and get to know them in order to care about the storyline going on in NXT. So I'm going to give it a go. We'll see. So far, we're keeping all 3 WWE programs on this. And then, of course, since I have Peacock, I'm now able to watch the pay-per-views. So we will definitely talk pay-per-views. So this week, first week of the new year, Happy New Year, everybody. We did New Year's whatever. New Year's Evil for NXT, Day 1 for Raw, and then New Year's Revolution for SmackDown. So we're going to go in the order it came out with. Raw. Raw opened up with Becky Lynch versus Nia Jax. That rivalry has been going on, from what I've been seeing, for a couple of months now. At the very least, it's been going on all December long. And we finally got to see the match. Match was spectacular. I thought the girls gave 110%. It was crazy. There was blood. There was sweat. But in the end, Nia Jax was able to pull off the victory. It was a strong victory. No cheating involved. I mean, Nia was just the better one of the night. Do I think this is over? This rivalry is not over. Not by a long shot. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing more of this in the coming weeks. Then we had Cody come out. I always love Cody's segments where he's talking on the mic. He's just really good at the mic. And him and Nakamura have been feuding back and forth for a while. Now we're finally getting a match between him and Nakamura next week. I believe it's next week. I think they said next week. And it's going to be crazy because Nakamura has definitely gotten into Cody's head. And we all know that Cody, for the Royal Rumble, he's going for the gold. He didn't make it last year. This year, he wants his gold. So hopefully, we'll be getting to see that. Another segment we got before our next match was Miz TV with the Judgment Day. Except it's not the Judgment Day. It's R-Truth. And as he's doing the interview with the Miz, Dominic and I believe it's JD come out, and they're like, "We'd never be on Miz TV. You know, you're not in the Judgment Day." The one thing, see, I love the Judgment Day. I'm gonna throw it out there. I never really like a heel faction, but there's something about Judgment Day. Maybe it's Finn and Damian and Rhea. I'm still taking me a while to get used to Dominic. But for some reason, I love Judgment Day. I love their chemistry. The one thing I worry, though, is all of 2023, Judgment Day has been a dominant, serious faction in the Raw brand or in WWE in general. So now enters R-Truth. And all December long, now Judgment Day is kind of getting thrown into a comedic relief. Because R-Truth is all comedy. I don't know how I feel about that because you're taking Judgment Day from looking like this big, bad, strong, heel faction, and now you're throwing R-Truth in there, and they're starting to look. It's starting to put cracks in that, in that really strong heel faction. And as much as I'm enjoying it, I hope that it's not stretched out to a point where it will ruin Judgment Day. I do like the way Judgment Day is. I don't want to see them fall to the wayside and become like a comedy heel, kind of like the way New Day started off. New Day was completely comedic, and I think that's what took me so long to get behind New Day. When it comes to the Judgment Day, they were never comedic. So I love R-Truth. I love what they're doing with him. I just hope that they don't overstay their welcome in this kind of idea of trying to lighten up the Judgment Day by putting comedy in. Anyway, it turns out to be a tag match. R-Truth and The Miz, the what do you call it? Awesome Truth versus JD and Dominic Mysterio. And of course, R-Truth, he's like, I'm with the Judgment Day, but JD isn't with the Judgment Day. And the whole match was kind of like all over the place. Miz was cleaning up shop with everyone, with JD and Dominic. In the end, of course, R-Truth beats up on JD because he's not part of Judgment Day, and Miz is able to put his finisher off and get them the win. However, again, making the Judgment Day more of a joke. However, at least it's making a joke of the two members in the group that kind of, in my opinion, need a lot more work. My opinion with Dominic especially, he would have been better being in NXT a bit more than being in Raw. I know he's the son of Rey Mysterio. I know he's probably got a ton of experience and he's been in the ring for a while. I still feel like he needs to kind of mature a bit more. And I think NXT would be the place for him to start and build and then get his way back to Raw instead of just being on Raw. You could see that there's still a lot of rookie things that can be worked on in NXT. I'm not saying he can't wrestle. Few people are saying that. I don't say that at all. I just feel like NXT would be good for Dominic because he can first of all, at this point, he's become a star on Raw and through Judgment Day. This will bring people to NXT, and I just feel like it'll benefit him. In the long run, it will benefit him. So, speaking of Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley versus Ivy Nile for the belt. It was a brutal match. You got these women who were toe for toe, strong arm for strong arm. But in the end, Rhea was just able to get the win. She was able to retain her belt. But it was a really, really great match. I thought it was done really well. Rhea retained. We move on. Great stuff. That was one of my favorite matches of the night. Then, of course, we have the WCW, one of the former WWE, I said WCW, WWE champions making a return. Triple H said that the night before. Everybody was predicting it's The Rock. And then Jinder Mahal's music plays. And he comes out and he does this spiel about how much he hates America, blah, blah, blah. And then the real returning star shows up and it's The Rock. And The Rock does his thing where he chews up and spits out Jinder Mahal, beats him up, puts him down, but then he drops the one teaser that set in motion a lot of stuff backstage, a lot of changes. He talks about wanting to be the head of the table. This has been going on now. I've been away from wrestling for a while, and the rumors, especially with Roman Reigns being the champion for as long as he's been, the rumors of The Rock coming back and saying, excuse me, I'm the head of our family's table. That has been going on for a while. Those rumors and speculations and fan-made videos. Finally, we're getting that. The Rock drops the hint, walks off on SmackDown, and that's the segment. That definitely has me interested for SmackDown. But we're still on Raw, so let's talk about the main event. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. Holy shit. That match was off the hook. Blow for blow, finishers for finishers. You think that the match is over, and then a kick out. Drew put his everything into the match. Seth, 110%. You had the interruption towards the end of the match. Damian Priest, still senior money in the bank. He's waiting. He is going to cash in one day. He tries on Raw and fails. Unfortunately, though, because he interrupts the match, he ends up screwing Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins is able to retain the belt. That was a really strong first episode of Raw. I have no complaints. No complaints. Raw was my favorite. I'm going to say it now. Raw was my favorite event of the week. My favorite show of the week. Absolutely. Toe for toe. Every match was great. Again, the R-Truth Miz versus JD and Dominic Mysterio. Okay. Again, they're playing around with this R-Truth story. Ha ha he he. Fine for now. Please don't keep it up for later. There was a YouTube exclusive segment where R-Truth put a match together for Finn, and I forgot who else who he was versing. But again, I really am hoping WWE doesn't ruin Judgment Day by putting R-Truth too much into their faction and turning them into a kind of comedic relief. I liked Judgment Day the way they were, especially because they dominated 2023. They really did. And I just don't want to see that ruined by too much joking, if that makes sense. But I love R-Truth. I mean, he's able to break anyone out of their stone face character. I love it. He cracks me up every time I see him. So it's excellent, but not something that should be overdone. So we're going into Tuesday night, NXT, New Year's Evil. I know no one here, so forgive me in advance. It opened up with Blair Davenport versus Lyra Valkyria, who is the champion. It was a really good. Now, again, NXT is I don't want to say farm team, but it is where all the wrestlers start off before they move up to the big shows, the Raw and SmackDown. These two women, spectacular, blow for blow, did great jobs. Little flub ups here and there, but it was a spectacular first match of the night. Of course, Lyra Valkyria retained. Great job. Really good first match. We had a little bit. What I've noticed is there's a lot of previews and stuff during NXT. But the second match we got was Tiffany Stratton versus Fallon Henley. Now, this one I was having a hard time. Now, the winner of the match ended up becoming the boss of the other person. So basically, it was a become this person's lackey kind of match. I couldn't really get behind a lot of this match. Again, I don't know these superstars, so I don't really. Fallon Henley ended up winning the match. Obviously, she was, from what I could tell, the one that was the non-heel out of the two. And now we're going to be getting probably some story between her and Tiffany Stratton, Tiffany being her lackey now. Okay, we'll see where this goes. Then there was an interview with Ridge Holland. I remember Ridge Holland because he teamed up with Sheamus for a while, or he was part of a faction with Sheamus. Then he got injured and left. And he actually talks about getting injured multiple times and leaving. And then his match with Ilya, who is the current day NXT champion, and Ilya now being out. That I think is more of a work. I mean, it looks like a work, but anyway, he mentioned that it was an accident. He didn't mean to do it. And wrestling means the world to him, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Rich, gotcha. It was an accident. It's definitely going to be story. So Ilya can't wrestle tonight. And there was a segment where Trick Williams was upset that he couldn't wrestle Ilya because it was supposed to be a championship, his championship versus, him versus Ilya for the championship. However, Grayson Waller shows up. I don't like this guy. I don't like him on SmackDown. I don't like him, period. Not supposed to like him. He's an ass. But anyway, he comes in and talks about Ilya, blah, 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 blah. And then Trick's buddy decides, oh, hey, Trick could beat you. And if he loses, he'll give up his number one contendership for you. He's like, really? You got a match. So that's for later on in the night. We get one more match. It is the breakout tournament between Oba Femi and Riley Osborne. And we had a little segment for both of them talking about what it means to win this. And of course, Oba wins. However, I was siding more with him. I did like his promo for why he wants to win. I like his character a bit, and I could get behind him. Not saying I can't get behind Riley. He's interesting, kind of. But Oba Femi, I got really strong behind Femi, and I was really glad to see him win. This was a very good match. Really, really good. My favorite match of the night. I'll just say that right now. It was my favorite match of the night. However, Grayson Waller versus Trick Williams was the main event of the evening. I knew Trick Williams was going to win because Grayson Waller on SmackDown. However, I had my doubts a little while there until, of course, Kevin Owens came in. I will say this. There is one telltale thing with Trick. You could tell that his buddy is getting jilted about being pushed to the wayside a bit. And I feel like when we do get that championship match, it's kind of telltale that his friend is going to turn on him. Little too easy to telltale things. Unless I'm wrong, then I'll be surprised. But little telltale, but Trick Williams wrestling is amazing. Not really much of a fan of Grayson Waller. But Trick Williams was spectacular throughout the entire match. It was a really strong ending for NXT New Year's Evil. Can't wait to see next week's episode. Or this week, because unfortunately this is going up on Monday night. Apologies. The new Raw is coming out already, and I'm talking about last week. But anyway, we're going to conclude the week with Friday Night Smackdown. And it opens up with, of course, an interviewer trying to get Roman's reaction to The Rock's words on Raw. No comment. Okay, bye, Roman. I gotta be honest. Roman Reigns, I've been with him for a while. So the night opens up. First match is a U.S. Championship tournament. Winner of this match goes off to face Logan Paul at the Royal Rumble for the United States Championship, which, by the way, the new U.S. Champion belt, spectacular looking. Love it. How the hell Logan Paul is a wrestler? I will say this. I've watched some of his matches on YouTube. I'm surprised because he was originally a Vine. He was a Vine poster. I never would have expected someone who worked on Vine to becoming a wrestler. Him, at least. However, he's good. He actually, high flying. I'm going to give Logan Paul props. He is good in the ring. He's one of the few people who wanted to become a wrestler, went in there, and not only did the job, but actually went above and beyond in the matches I saw. Anyway, Kevin Owens, Santos Escobar, former member of the LWO, went off on his own because he got a big head and got upset about Carlito. Kevin Owens wins, of course, because he's Kevin Owens, and I can't wait to see the match at Royal Rumble. But, of course, Logan Paul has to come up, do his little bullshit, and then gets decked out by Kevin Owens with only one hand right now. Loved it. Perfect way to start the night. Perfect way to start the night. And then there's some backstage stuff where he's got a big ice pack on his poor little head, and they bring him into, and of course Grayson Waller is best friends with Logan Paul. Who's surprised about that? Same thing with that other guy who I really can't stand either. Or whatever. He's there too. There are some people on SmackDown, their personalities remind me a lot of MJF. However, MJF wore on me. He grew on me after a while. However, there are a few that aren't. But anyway, we go back to another talk segment with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to build up Bobby Lashley. He's going into the Royal Rumble. Street Profits are going to be going for the tag titles. Great. However, they get interrupted by Karrion Kross and AOP. And that's what this segment was all about. It's about Karrion Kross and AOP being there and wanting to become the most dominant force on SmackDown. Interesting stuff. Looking forward to seeing where this goes. That's all I really can say. The next two wrestlers, I don't know too well, but it was Michin versus Ivory Sky for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. Sky retained. This match was kind of the weakest of the night for me. It really was. I really can't say much. I watched it. I like the idea of Damage Control, the female faction that's behind Sky, that's led by Bayley of all people, who went dark years ago. I don't know how. It just didn't. It didn't do it for me as much. I just remembered something, by the way, going back to NXT real quick with the Women's Championship on NXT. There are people looking to capture that NXT Women's Championship. There was a little altercation after the match. That's going to be interesting for next week's NXT. I think it's going to lead to a tag match. But anyway, back to SmackDown. Weak match. Moving on, Paul Heyman does make a comment about The Rock finally, saying that The Rock was never invited to our table. He's not relevant anymore. If this isn't story development in the making, I don't know what is, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, we then get Pretty Deadly, which looks like a bootleg Legolas and somebody else. I'm sorry, I don't know these wrestlers. I apologize. Any fans of these wrestlers, but my God. Pretty Deadly versus Butch and Tyler Bates. Of course, Butch and Tyler Bates won. Of course, Pretty Deadly was just the sacrificial lamb. I watched that match and I tried not to laugh as much as I could. I don't know why, but for some reason, this is the first time I saw Pretty Deadly, and I just thought Legolas, and obviously it's about Tyler Bates being there as Butch's tag partner. It was a good match. It was a good match. It was. I'm sorry. I can't take Pretty Deadly seriously. It's the first time I've seen them, so forgive me, anybody who's a fan of Pretty Deadly. I don't even know if they're ever going to be back on SmackDown, but anyway, main event of the night and the longest fight of the night, the triple threat match to find out who the number one contender will be for Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. AJ, Randy Orton, LA Knight, best match of the night. Wow. These men put their bodies on the line, puts finishers on the line, everything, kickouts, everything. This match was so good. I'm almost upset at the ending of the match. But I will say AJ Styles back. He is at 110%. He is literally in it to win it. Randy Orton is doing great. He's back after over a year away. Kind of glad I jumped in as Randy Orton came back. And LA Knight, this is kind of my introduction to LA Knight the past month or so. I love LA Knight. He is a strong wrestler. However, this spectacular match ends up ending in a no contest because Roman Reigns and the Bloodline come in, beat the crap out of everybody. No one wins. However, the general manager of SmackDown congratulates Paul Heyman and tells him to tell Roman when he's done celebrating in the ring that he screwed up this match, that he now earned himself a fatal four-way match at the Royal Rumble. So anyone can get pinned, anyone can lose, and anyone can win. So now it no longer matters if Roman isn't pinned. If AJ gets pinned, if LA gets pinned, if Orton gets pinned, they lose. The belt goes to whoever is the pin-or. And I'm hoping, I don't know. I have my hopes for one or two. It's hard because I want to see all three of these guys get the belt. I really do. So I'm going to be surprised at Royal Rumble. However, I'm hoping that they don't make, they've already made Reigns, Super Reigns. At some point, he has to lose the belt. This is the best time because he doesn't even have to get pinned. Anyone can be pinned. So I'm hoping that that helps it. And then, of course, there's a YouTube segment afterwards where Paul Heyman tells Roman Reigns what the general manager of SmackDown said. He gets mad and tells Paul Heyman, fix this. However, I don't think Paul Heyman's going to be able to fix this. So we'll see where it goes. But Raw, absolutely my favorite show of the week, followed by SmackDown. SmackDown had the best main event. That triple threat, definitely superior over all three shows. That was my favorite, followed by Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. That was my second place favorite match. Spectacular. I'm looking forward to what's going to happen next because now we've got the stage. The stage is being set. Royal Rumble is only 2 weeks away. What's going to happen? And I'm looking forward to the Rumble and hopefully Cody finishing his story. I came back to WWE for Cody. I stayed for all the other amazing talent. I got to admit, things have gotten a lot better in WWE over the past year, and I'm sure a lot of you know why. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I'm sure a few of you know why already. And Triple H at the helm absolutely is helping rebuild WWE, in my opinion. And then you got Shawn Michaels at NXT. You've got a very strong staff behind the scenes. And there's rumors that there was a huge major change that just happened this week because of The Rock and Cody and Roman. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this big change is. Excellent stuff, though. I loved everything. NXT, there were some really strong matches. Trick Williams, definitely. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing Trick Williams move up instead of getting the championship very soon. So we'll see. I hope we do. I really do. I don't need to see Trick Williams as the NXT champ. I would love to see Trick Williams, SmackDown, Raw, somewhere. He definitely has the potential to be on either show at this point. But anyway, I'm going to cut this first episode short. I'm looking forward to 2024 with Raw, SmackDown, NXT, WWE. I'm looking forward to what's going to be going on and where we get to see the titles float around to. Till next time, everybody, as always, links are in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, look forward to the next episode of Ringside Warriors, hopefully on next Sunday. I'm looking to try to get these episodes up on Sunday before the next week's episodes. So keep our fingers crossed. I will do my best with what I have. Till then, take care, and I will see all of you in the next video or the next podcast.